Hi, good day. I'm Andre Sheppard, Petty Officer First Class retired. I had did 36 years in the Royal Canadian Navy, Regular Force and Reserve. My occupation and where I served, just to give some more insight, I started out on the East Coast. I did a couple of years on the East Coast, and then I did some training on the West Coast and realized that I'm better off being a sandy bottom sailor. So I got transferred to the West Coast. I sailed on the West Coast primarily. I did been around the world. The only places I haven't been to is Australia and Russia. I've been through both canals. Did peacekeeping in the Red Sea, pirate patrols in the Indian Ocean. Did rim pack exercise on the West Coast. Did NATO on the East Coast. So I've had quite the career. Later on in my career, I got posted inland to Winnipeg, and I was working at Area Cadets, and this is where I retired and ended up joining the Sea Cadets. I was a commanding officer of the Sea Cadet Corps in Brandon. Then I got a position with Chippewa as a recruiter, and I did 7 years with Chippewa as a recruiter and then retired in 2015. What I wanted to talk about today was some history that I didn't find out about until I joined Chippewa. Now, I'm going to talk about Percy Haynes. Percy Haynes, born in British Guyana. Family immigrated to Winnipeg in about 1911. While in Winnipeg, Percy Haynes was very big into sports, music. He played basketball, baseball, boxing. He also did some coaching. Percy Haynes, later on during World War II, him and some friends decided that they were going to join the Navy. So they went down to Chippewa, which at that time was the recruiting center. His friends were able to join, but he was told that no black men were not allowed to join the Royal Canadian Navy. And they said they felt it wasn't safe to have a black man on a ship with all white sailors. So that was part of the reason why he wasn't allowed to join. So Percy Haynes, being the man that he was, decided that wasn't good enough. So he started a letter writing campaign, and it made it all the way up to the Admiral of the Navy. And then they decided that they were going to change the rules, and he was allowed to join. So Percy Haynes joined the Navy at Chippewa as a shipwright. So during his time in Chippewa as a shipwright, he also displayed his music talent, and he is very big with jazz. He met his wife, and they opened up a restaurant, which was very famous in Winnipeg as the Chicken Shack. And at that time, all the musicians that came to Winnipeg, Duke Ellington and all the big musicians of the day, would end up at the Chicken Shack after hours, and they'd have their big jamboree going on at the Chicken Shack. So Percy Haynes, being the first black man to join the Royal Canadian Navy, ended up being one of my heroes once I found out about him. So before him, and people get a little bit confused, was William Hall. And William Hall was the first black man to receive the Victoria Cross, Britain's highest award. But he got that, he left Truro, Nova Scotia, and joined the Royal Navy and sailed with the British during the Indian Rebellion. And so he was the first black man from Canada to join the Royal Navy, and Percy Haynes was the first one to join the Royal Canadian Navy. So black sailors in the Royal Canadian Navy, there is a display wall in National Defense Headquarters which has over 300 years of Canadian black history in the military. And on that wall, it goes from Matthew DaCosta, first free black man to come to Canada, with Samuel de Champlain as an interpreter, carries on up to William Hall, number 2 Construction Battalion, first all-black battalion during World War I, because blacks weren't allowed to fight with the white soldiers. So they formed a construction battalion for them. So they didn't get weapons, they got shovels instead. and went overseas to build roads, bridges, and worked with the forestry department in France. And then it carried on up through the years to War of 1812, was also on the wall for Richard Pierrepoint, which was a slave that came to Canada to be a free man and then went back and fought with the British during the War of 1812. Carrying on up to the first black coxswain of Naval Reserve Unit HMCS HMCS Scotian, which is Perry Colley. The first black coxswain on a warship was on the HMCS Annapolis. Then it also talks about then it sort of ends there, and they haven't updated it. My picture is on the wall, and my picture is there because my mother was contacted about getting information about me, so she sent a picture and all kinds of write-up. And then when I was on Facebook one day, a friend of mine put on a post on Facebook saying, "I saw your picture on the wall, well done." And I got a hold of him and said, "What wall?" So then I found out about this wall and that I was on it. And then it sort of just drops off from there. We also had our first black commanding officer of a minor war vessel, Lieutenant Commander Smith from Toronto. I believe it's HMCS York. You also had here in Chippewa, so I've been able to come across the first black lieutenant commander in the Naval Reserves, was George Atwell. And he ended up passing away. Chippewa, being the great unit that it is, they made up his own ship's crest that they presented to him and the family as a gesture for his time when he was with Chippewa. So being a board member with the Naval Museum of Manitoba, I get to learn more history about the Navy, about the hardships that sailors went through, about the good times and the bad times, and the customs and traditions. And then with myself, I am also a member of the Black History Manitoba Celebration Committee, and I get to pass on this naval history, blacks in the Canadian Armed Forces, blacks that served in the Navy. I get to pass this on to that community as well, and we reach into the schools and we pass on that history, and this year I'll be able to incorporate the black history with the naval history as well. So in my closing remarks, I just want to say that as I have on my shirt today, Naval Veteran, I am so proud of being in the Canadian Navy. As I say, 36 years. I had a fantastic time. My last posting being Chippewa, and I will always remember Chippewa for the opportunities that I was afforded with being here, the history that I learned while I was in Chippewa, and given me the opportunity to pass that on to the community. I wish everyone the best, and I look forward to running into some old friends during this time and rekindling some friendships, telling some more stories, and sitting at the liars table at the Legion and at the Army, Navy, Air Force veterans, and listening to the stories that the old sailors there have to tell. But thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.